Now we'll be discussing section 9.5. Basically what section 9.5 states is, in respect of certain specified services, e-commerce operator will be regarded as a supplier of the service. E-commerce operator, he will be regarded as a supplier of service, and he will be required to pay GST. So fundamentally, section 9.5 states that in respect of certain specified services, which will be notified, here the e-commerce operator will be regarded as what? The supplier of service, and he will be liable to pay GST on the same. So section 9.5 is what? Tax payable by e-commerce operator on notified services. Section 9.5 is tax payable by e-commerce operator on notified services. So what is it is what has been stated here is, that is, first of all you must understand what who is an e-commerce operator and what electronic commerce is. So we are seeing there are various websites such as Amazon, Flipkart, Make My Delivery. These are various websites, say make My Trip. Now these all are acting as what? The e-commerce operators. They are acting as what? The e-commerce operators. Basically they are providing a platform. This is an electronic platform where the supplier registers and the buyer registers. And here supplier sell the goods to the various buyers by availing the facility of the platform, which is owned by whom? The e-commerce operator. Now here, in normal circumstances, e-commerce operator is required to collect the tax at source. But in respect of the services which have been notified under section 9.5, e-commerce operator is regarded as a supplier of service, and he will be liable to pay what? GST on the same. तो देखिए, what is e-commerce operator? Let's see. E-commerce operator means any person who owns, operates or manages what? A digital or an electronic facility or a platform. He is owning, operating or managing digital or electronic platform for electronic commerce. So basically the e-commerce operators are there. Now what e-commerce is? What is electronic commerce is? So here electronic commerce basically means what? Supply of goods or services or both, it including say digital products. Digitized books are also sold, e-books are sold, e-movies are sold over say digital or electronic network. So e-commerce basically means what? Supply of goods or services or both, including digital products over digital or electronic network. And the person who is operating, who owns, operates or manages this digital or electronic facility or platform, he is known as what? The e-commerce operator. Now what section 9.5 states is, section 9.5 states that here the government on recommendation of the GST Council, they may by notification specify category of services. They will what? Specify the category of the services, the tax on intrastate supplies of which, shall be paid by e-commerce operator. The tax on intrastate supplies of which will be paid by e-commerce operator as if the services are supplied through it. Services are what? Supplied through it. If such services are supplied through it, and it will be regarded that e-commerce operator basically is a supplier of service, and he will be liable to get himself registered and pay GST. And they say that all the provisions of the Act all the provisions of the Act shall apply to such e-commerce operator. All the provisions of the Act shall apply to the e-commerce operator as if he is supplier liable for paying tax in relation to supply of such services. He will be regarded as a supplier. He is regarded as a supplier of service, and he will be liable to pay tax in relation to supply of such services. Now, in case these e-commerce operators, they can be located, say, in UK, they can be in US, anywhere. Therefore, in case if they do not have any physical presence, in case where the e-commerce operator does not have a physical presence in the taxable territory, where the e-commerce operator does not have, say, a physical presence in the taxable territory, then any person who is representing such e-commerce operator for any purpose in taxable territory shall be liable to pay the tax. In case they are not having a physical presence, then any person representing such ECO, any person representing such ECO for any purpose in the taxable territory shall be liable to pay the tax. Then in case where an e-commerce operator does not have a physical presence in the taxable territory, e-commerce operator is not having a physical presence in the taxable territory, and he does not have a representative also. He does not have, say, any representative also in the taxable territory. Then what will happen? Here, the e-commerce operator they shall appoint a person in the taxable territory. They will appoint a person in the taxable territory for the purpose of paying the tax, and such person shall be liable to pay the tax. So he will be what? Liable to pay the tax. So fundamentally, what important aspect is, what we have to see, what are the services which are notified. So first of all, you must remember that section 9(5) is applicable only in respect of specified services, not in respect of goods. It is applicable only in respect of specified services, not in respect of goods. Okay. Now, what are the categories of these services? What are the categories of these services? The tax on the, say, intrastate supplies of which will be paid by the e-commerce operator. So let us now see what are the categories of the services, the tax on the intrastate supplies of which will be paid by the e-commerce operator. So fundamentally, this section 9(5), this notification has been, say, amended. Certain amendments have been made here. So they say that number one is what? Services by way of transportation of passengers. Services by way of transportation of passengers. One is what? The transportation of passengers. This transportation of passengers can be by a radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle, omnibus, or any other motor vehicle. So services by way of transportation of passengers. Services by way of transportation of passengers by a radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle, omnibus, or say any other motor vehicle. We see that Uber, Ola, Motorride, they are all what? The e-commerce operators. They are what? E-commerce operators. They are engaged in providing the service. They are engaged in basically providing a platform where the various persons, they can get themselves registered, and we will be say availing these services. So the suppliers will be here regarded as whom? Who will be regarded as the supplier? The e-commerce operator will be regarded as the supplier. So what basically radio taxi means? Radio taxi means a taxi including say a radio cab which is having two-way radio communication. They are having two-way radio communication with a central control office and is enabled for tracking using GPS or say GPRS. That is basically radio taxi. Now here, if services of transportation of passengers are there by a radio taxi, or it can be by say a motor cab or a maxi cab. What motor cab is? Motor cab basically is a car, basically it's a car, motor vehicle constructed or adapted to carry not more than 6 passengers, excluding the driver for hire or reward. So motor cab means a motor vehicle. It's a motor vehicle constructed or adapted to carry not more than 6 passengers. It is constructed or adapted to carry not more than 6 passengers, excluding the driver for hire or reward. Then we are having say a maxi cab, and here in maxi cab there are more than 6 passengers but not more than 12 passengers. There are more than 6 passengers but not more than 12 passengers, excluding the driver for hire or reward. So maxi cab means any motor vehicle. Maxi cab means what? Any motor vehicle constructed or adapted to carry more than 6 passengers but not more than 12 passengers, excluding driver for say hire or reward. Then we are having, they are saying that it can be a motor cab, it can be a maxi cab, it can be a radio, a taxi, or it can be omnibus or any other vehicle. Now what omnibus is what? Omnibus basically means any motor vehicle that is constructed or adapted to carry more than 6 passengers. They are what? Omnibus basically means any motor vehicle constructed or adapted to carry more than 6 passengers, excluding the driver. And basically motor vehicle or say vehicle means any mechanically propelled vehicle adapted for use upon road, whether the power of propulsion is transmitted from an external or say internal source, and it is includes a chassis to which body has not been attached and a trailer, but does not include what? A vehicle running upon the fixed rails, that is not covered, or a vehicle of special type adapted for use in factory, that is not covered in the ambit of motor vehicle, or any other enclosed premises, or say a vehicle having less than 4 wheels fitted with engine capacity not exceeding 25 cubic centimeters. So that is also not covered under the ambit of say motor vehicles. So fundamentally number one is what? These Ola, Uber, etc. They are the e-commerce operator. They are engaged in providing service by way of transportation of passengers by a radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle, omnibus or any other motor vehicle. Then second one is what? Say we go to what? Make My Trip. They are also the aggregators, basically hotels. We can find hotels there. So they are providing, this MMT is providing accommodation in hotels. So services, next service which has been specified is services by way of providing accommodation. Services by way of providing accommodation in hotel, in guest house, clubs, campsite or any other commercial places meant for residential or lodging purpose, or any other commercial places meant for residential or lodging purpose, except where the person supplying such service through ECO is liable for registration under 22(1) of the said CGST Act. The services by way of providing accommodation, services by way of say providing accommodation in hotels, inns, guest house, clubs, campsite or other commercial places meant for what? Residential or lodging purpose, except where the service through ECO That is what? Such service through ECO is liable for, so this person who is supplying the service is liable for registration. So if a hotel is there and the aggregate turnover does not exceed what? 20 lakhs. And this hotel is listed in, say, Make My Trip, and we get the hotel booked, then in that case Make My Trip will be what? Liable to pay GST as an e-commerce operator. But if the hotel's aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, in that particular circumstance, hotel is required to get itself registered and hotel will be required to pay the tax on the same. The services by way of providing accommodation, in hotels, in guest house, clubs, campsite or any other commercial places meant for residential or lodging purposes, except where the person supplying such service through ECO is liable for registration under 22(1) of the said Act. Okay. So when the hotel is liable for registration, then in that particular circumstance, ECO will not be liable to pay GST. 9(5) will not be applicable, because hotel itself is registered, hotel will pay the tax on the same. But if hotel is not liable for registration, in that particular circumstance, the ECO will be required to pay the tax. Then services by way of housekeeping, such as plumbing, carpenting, etc. Except where the person supplying such service through ECO is liable for registration under 22(1) of the CGST Act. So housekeeping services have been notified. So if there are small plumbers, carpenters, etc., they can what? Get themselves registered, okay, at the ECO's website, and then they start providing the service. In this particular circumstance, if their aggregate turnover does not exceed the threshold limit of 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs, if their aggregate turnover does not exceed the threshold limit of 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs, in that particular circumstance, they are not required to get themselves registered. In such a case, whatever services have been provided by such plumber, carpenter, etc., ECO will be what? Electronic commerce operator will be liable to pay the tax on the same. Then next is what? Supply of restaurant service. This has been added. Supply of restaurant service other than the services supplied by restaurants, eating joints located at specified premises. Now say we are having ZOMATO. We can take the meals from this, availing the services of ZOMATO, SWIGGY, etc. Now here, these are what the e-commerce operator. So they will be what? Liable to pay the tax. That is supply of restaurant services other than services supplied by restaurants, eating joints, etc., located at specified premise. Now what specified premise is? Specified premise basically means the premises. Providing hotel accommodation service, having a declared tariff of any unit of accommodation above 7,500 per unit per day or equivalent. So these are basically the hotels. If the declared tariff is 7,500 per unit per day or its equivalent, then they will then in that particular circumstance they are out, their restaurants are out, but other restaurants will be covered. Now this is Swiggy, Zomato, etc. They will be regarded as e-commerce operator, and e-commerce operator will be liable to pay tax on the same. So supply of restaurant services other than services supplied by restaurants, eating joints, etc., located at what? The specified premises. So these are the e-commerce operators. They are what? Required to pay GST on these specified services. These are the specified services, so on which the e-commerce operator will be liable to pay GST. So fundamentally these are the specified services where the e-commerce operator will be liable to pay GST. He will be regarded as the supplier of service. They are transportation of passenger service, accommodations in hotels, etc., housekeeping service, and supply of, say, restaurant services. Okay. Now we have seen that who is a person liable to pay tax on the respect of the above services if the e-commerce operator is located in the taxable territory. Here, if the e-commerce operator is located in the taxable territory, if the e-commerce operator is located in the taxable territory, the person liable to pay GST will be the e-commerce operator. The person liable to pay GST will be the e-commerce operator. If the e-commerce operator does not have any physical presence in the taxable territory, in case the e-commerce operator does not have any physical presence in the taxable territory, then it is the person liable to pay tax is the person who is representing the e-commerce operator. The person who is representing the e-commerce operator, he will be liable to pay the tax on the same. And in case if the e-commerce operator does not have any physical presence, neither any representative in the taxable territory, that he does not have any physical presence, nor he is having, say, representative in the taxable territory, then that person will appoint any other person. Okay, e-commerce operator basically will appoint any other person for the purpose of paying the tax. For the purpose of paying the tax. So this was about section 9(5).